Hello, everyone. Business Guru here. So, I promised that I would start off and take you back to the very beginning of the journey of entrepreneurship. I mean, the first series of videos here, I was going through the success of getting past the cash starvation phase and getting successfully securing some reinvestment into an existing successful business. But now I want to go all the way back. To the very beginning of when I started to decide to become an entrepreneur and to leave my position as a partner in an accounting firm. And I want to express a few thoughts here on why a person chooses to go down this path. Most of what you see out in popular culture and in the success literature talks about wanting to go into business because you want an easy life, because you want to make lots of money, you want to call the shots, you want to be able to work when you want and take off when you want and sleep in when you want, and all the rest of it. And I have been an entrepreneur now for 10 years, and I've yet to really experience anything except um, being able to set my own priorities for what I think is important for the business. That's one freedom I've had. So I don't have any pointless meetings I have to attend. I don't have to spend, hours and hours talking about doing work. I can just get down to it, roll up my sleeves, and do it. Um, those are both real benefits to being an entrepreneur. Is not having to deal with that organizational bureaucracy of having to run everything past a layer of management or get somebody else's buy-in before doing something. Um, but apart from that, I've yet to really experience being able to go and leave work halfway through the day to go downtown for a pint of beer, or being able to go out kayaking for an hour or two like I did, yesterday with my partner Steph. That's a goal that I've set now for the next couple of years. I'd like to get to the point where I can do that, but that's not a reality that you're going to find is prevalent when you're starting a business. Um, at least not once the rubber hits the road, which is what I'll explain in my next video. Um, I think the biggest reason to become an entrepreneur, looking back, is because you have something that you're passionate about that you want to contribute to the world. So for me, I've always wanted to contribute to the hobby of stamp collecting. I always felt that I had knowledge and insight to contribute to this hobby that it was missing before. Um, and I felt that the hobby needed it. Um, so, I really felt that the world would be lacking if um, if it didn't have my insight. Um, and I really felt that it was important for me to get into a position where I could contribute my knowledge and expertise to help other collectors. And that was something that stayed with me. It kind of went away for a while, while I built my accounting career and worked my way up to partnership. But every so often it would come back and tap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, remember, you need to do this. And I noticed, for over the 20-year period since, since the internet became a thing and before I quit, the knowledge that I was thinking would appear online for collectors just didn't. There are plenty of things that have appeared online, but a lot of it's very disjointed. It's not really very sophisticated, and a lot of it is very superficial content. There's not a whole lot there to really help serious philatelists that want to study an area. Um, And so, and certainly there's no resource that unites all the resources out there. There are plenty of sort of half attempts made, but nothing that's really, comprehensive. And so I felt it was important to get involved and to start putting out content to help collectors. Um, and to get over what I perceive as a tendency within this hobby to be absolutely perfectionistic and not publish anything unless they're absolutely sure it's perfect, which of course generally means that nothing gets done. Like decades go by and nothing gets done. And, I just think that that's more of a harm to the hobby than a help. And I wanted to get involved and do those things. And so I think it's important if you're going to start a business and you're going to leave a job to start your own company that you've got to have a why that goes beyond the money you think you're going to make and the extra goodies you're going to get in terms of time off and perks, because what you're going to find when you get past the elation stage, and again, I'm going to explain in another video the different stages that I've gone through as an entrepreneur. But once you get past the elation stage and the rubber really hits the road and you get into survival mode and crisis mode, you're going to need that why to fall back on. Because if you don't have it, you're going to lose motivation and you're going to give up. And the single biggest problem that I think most entrepreneurs face is that they give up too early. They have an unrealistic expectation of when things are supposed to come together and what actual success looks like. And again, that's due in large part to popular culture, which has, through a lot of TV shows and a lot of portrayals, it's made it look as though a successful business just takes off within days or months or weeks of inception. And that just does, I mean, that might be the case for a very, very small number of ideas and things that just seem to catch on. But it is absolutely not the case for the majority of businesses. Not ones that are really worthwhile, anyway. Because it takes a lot of thought and insight and effort and consistency to create something that doesn't already exist, that can't easily be copied. Um, and it just doesn't happen overnight. And so you have to have a very strong, resilient sense of what it is you're trying to achieve if you want to be able to tap into your inner motivation when the going gets tough, because it's going to get tough very, very quickly after you start. Um, it and again, I'm going to go through that in another video. But I think the biggest thing is if you feel that there's something that the world needs that it's not getting, that you could provide to it. And if you're feeling in your job as though you could be abducted by aliens tomorrow and the world wouldn't really notice your absence from what it is you're doing, then I think that's a good indication that it's time to consider entrepreneurship. Okay. The other thing is you need to figure out whether you're truly an entrepreneur and whether you have that in your blood. And, it's important to distinguish between somebody who runs a business and an entrepreneur. There's overlap, obviously, between those two things, but they're not the same. An entrepreneur typically is somebody who will risk everything or almost everything that they can to make their vision come true and to see everything through. Somebody who just runs a business will quit and bail as soon as they think they're not getting enough of a return on their time and effort and money. And I mean, that may well be a wise choice in a lot of cases, but in a lot of others, not so much. It often takes longer and more investment than you think it's going to take to see your vision through and to get the return that you ultimately think is possible on your idea. And you can't always approach it with an accountant's, spreadsheet type of analysis, because that's just not the way it works. And you'll find if you do that again that you quit too early on a good idea. Now, I'm not saying there aren't circumstances when that kind of analysis is important and when it's important to know when to walk away from something, but most people give up far too early and they don't see things through. And, so if you're the type of person who has the patience to play the long game and understand that it takes time to build markets and it takes time to build brands and it takes time to make an impact, and you are with a partner that understands that as well and is willing to make those sacrifices or willing to stand by you while you make those sacrifices, then entrepreneurship is a path that's open to you. But if you're in a situation where you have a lot of responsibility or family responsibility, and there's a degree of risk aversion there, and you're not with a partner that wants to support taking those risks, then it's not a good idea, because there is a lot of risk involved in forming a new business and in building a business. And your family has to be, not just you, but your entire family has to be comfortable with you taking those risks. Or if they're not comfortable, they have to at least be willing to allow you the freedom to do so. And if they're not, then, that may be something that you have to consider in this decision. But anyway, I think those are some thoughts on entrepreneurship and why to start a business. My next video, I'm going to talk about what I see the basic stages of entrepreneurship being, just based on the experience I've had in the last 10 years. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hang in there.